Hi guys! So this is our first CKLA lesson on YouTube. If and when you went to go get your new packets from the school, you will have seen this workbook in your bag with your packet. So we decided that we could send home some CKLA stuff, some new stuff. So hopefully these videos help you guys work through the lessons, because otherwise just kind of going through it on your own, some of it might be a little bit confusing. So I definitely recommend watching these videos and going through each lesson. Try and do like one lesson a day like we do normally at school with CKLA. But yeah, just follow this video and all the other videos. I'll title them like CKLA Unit 6 Lesson 1, and then CKLA Unit 6 Lesson 2, and so on, each video. So it's kind of a cool workbook. It's like the, let's see, our poetry unit when it was a little spiral bound notebook again, when it had like all the reader and workbook and everything was just in one. So this is your workbook, but the stories are in here too, so that's great. And this whole unit is about, or it's called, contemporary fiction. So contemporary fiction, well, first, fiction we know is stories that have made up settings or characters, like they're made up stories, okay? And contemporary kind of means new, like modern. So it's like modern fiction. So they're not historical. It has to be like a setting, like a time that's kind of current times or pretty recently, okay? So like if the setting was like back in the Middle Ages, it would not be considered contemporary fiction. This is all kind of like happening now kind of stories, okay? So the unit is contemporary fiction with excerpts from The House on Mango Street. So excerpts we know means small chunks of the story. So we only have select chapters from the actual book, The House on Mango Street. We don't get to see the whole book because they can't fit an entire book. And some of the chapters they thought might have been too challenging to include, or maybe not a subject matter that we needed to learn about. But they're all from this story called The House on Mango Street, okay? So as we look through this, the first page is kind of cool. It has like one of these pages again, like our poetry one did. This book belongs to, so you can put your name there if you want. I put my student's name on the front cover, like where mine is here. Your name should be right there. I always label your guys' stuff just in case you lost it at school, so you have yours labeled. And then this first page is just copyright information, but the table of contents is right here, and it's kind of important that we go over some of this stuff because this workbook is laid out a little bit confusingly. So table of contents, it's just this front page and the back page a little bit, but the front page of the table of contents shows that it kind of splits it in two. Okay, so right about there, you can draw a line across like I did with my highlighter. These are all the vignettes from the story. So vignettes are like the excerpts from the story, and they've put them all at the beginning. So the first like 40 pages of the workbook is all just the chapters that they took out for us, okay? Kind of like if you think about back to the beginning, personal narratives, unit 1, when we were reading Small Steps, remember the girl with polio, and we only had some chapters? It would be like if they put the reader at the beginning of the workbook and then all the lessons. But the nice thing is we can totally like just ignore this whole thing. If you want to go through and read all of that, be my guest, go for it. But this first excerpt, The House on Mango Street on page 2, goes with lesson 1, but it's at the beginning of lesson 1 also. So on page 42, when this lesson starts, this vignette is in both places. So I'll show you more about that later, but basically you can just ignore the first like 40 pages of the whole workbook. So I'll show you what that looks like. And hopefully you're flipping through with yours so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so like I said, the beginning is all the vignettes, the excerpts. Okay, I keep going like this when I talk about excerpts because it's just a piece, it's just a chunk of the story, right? So there's all of them right here. Vignette 1, The House on Mango Street, and it has that chapter. And then vignette 2, my name, that's the chapter title. So what I'm doing is skipping through all of this because I'm not reading all of these right now. These go they go with certain lessons. So, skipping through all of them. All of them. And then you finally get to lessons on page 41. So, and look, again, Vignette 1, the house on Mango Street. But this time it says up here in the corner, L1 for lesson 1. So this story now goes with lesson 1, but it was in both places. Okay, see on page 2, house on Mango Street with the story, but it says Vignette 1. Then page 42, where lesson 1 starts, it's the same story, same picture. Okay, I don't know why. I don't know why they put all those right there at the beginning. That's a lot of paper because they just print them again for us here. But anyway, I didn't make the book. I didn't make the rules. So really, lesson 1 starts on page 43. So skip all the way to page 43 because that's where it begins. What I'm going to do, if you have like Post-it notes or bookmarks or something at home, grab one and put it in your workbook. I do that usually with my workbooks, my math workbook, my teacher's manual, all those. I put a Post-it note on the page, but I, left all those at school. So I have paper clips. This one is kind of a fancy one, but I was just going to put a paper clip where we're at on each lesson. So if that makes it easier for you, I will still begin every video with saying, what page number we're on, but just in case that helps you. Okay, so the vignette is on the first couple of pages, and then the lesson kind of begins, okay? So I'm going to read the vignette, the chapter, out loud. If you don't want to hear me read it out loud, like if you want to read it by yourself, skip ahead to the video when you, wait until you see me starting to flip pages, okay? Because not everybody wants to hear me read. Maybe you want to read it on your own, and that's fine. That's an option. Read it by yourself. Option 2, track along with me as I read it out loud. So you have yours open, and you're tracking with your finger, with a pencil, something, as I read the words. You're following along in yours, because that's how we do it in class usually, because some of these units that we have are really difficult reading. So that's usually the option that we take in class, okay? Option 3 is kind of specific just for this lesson, but one thing that I want you guys to do during this chapter is picturing what I'm reading or what you are reading. So if it helps you to visualize it better, you can actually close your eyes and listen to me read this chapter. If that helps you better picture or visualize what you're reading about, okay? Normally I would not tell you to close your eyes while I'm reading, because then, there's the danger of you falling asleep, which would be unfortunate. So don't do that, but I want you to picture the setting as we read this. So picture where I'm reading about. So if I'm reading about our school or something, you're picturing our school. So those are your 3 options. Read it by yourself and fast forward. Track while I read. Close your eyes while I read. Listen very carefully and visualize what I'm reading about. Before I start to read it, though, I'm going to go over the vocab words. And annoyingly enough, they put the vocab words at the end of that lesson. So up in the corner, it says L1 for lesson 1 on all these, and then the activity pages. But on page 53 are the vocab words. Okay, so there's core vocabulary. That means it's from the story. And then there's literary vocabulary, and these are things that I might tell you that we need to do, or terms that we need to learn how to do, because some of this stuff we might not have done before. But these are the ones from the actual story. So in my class, we usually have a procedure for how we learn vocab words. That obviously won't work now because I say first word, crumbling, what word? And then you guys would all say crumbling, and then we would talk about what it means. But I'll just go through them. So first word is crumbling. It's an adjective. It means slowly falling apart, usually by breaking into small pieces, kind of like eroding, okay? Another old vocab word we had when we learned about geology. So crumbling is falling apart. slowly. Next word is elms, which is a noun, and that's a type of tree. Okay, elm is a type of tree, and they are usually large, it says. Next word is flat, and if you notice, it's a noun. It's not the adjective flat. Flat is an apartment. So usually I think that's like an English term or like a British term. Like in England, they would say flat instead of an apartment. Like I live in a flat. So we'll see what the setting is for this story. Next word is temporary, which is an adjective, meaning not lasting a long time, not permanent. Like this school closure is temporary. And last word is washroom, which is a noun. It's a room, often public, with washing and usually toilet facilities. So washroom is a bathroom. And then for literary vocabulary, these are things that we'll come to and we'll talk about eventually. But some of these you know already, like emphasis. We learned about that in poetry, the added stress or like focus on a word. Setting, we know that's the time and place of a story. The vignettes, those are the short episodes, the little, sometimes we did them as plays, like we acted them out in American Revolution unit. And then visualization, forming images in your mind. So as we're reading this chapter, you are visualizing the setting, and then the others we'll talk about later. Okay, so back on page 43, when this chapter starts, when this lesson starts. The title of this chapter, this vignette, is The House on Mango Street, which is the title of the entire book, too. All right, here we go. I need something to track with. Oh, gosh. Left my highlighter uncapped. Okay. Here we go. I can zoom in a tiny bit. All right. We didn't always live on Mango Street. Before that, we lived on Loomis on the 3rd floor. And before that, we lived on Keeler. Before Keeler, it was Paulina, and before that, I can't remember. But what I remember most is moving a lot. Each time, it seemed there'd be one more of us. By the time we got to Mango Street, we were 6. Mama, Papa, Carlos, Kiki, my sister, Nenny, and me. The house on Mango Street is ours, and we don't have to pay rent to anybody, or share the yard with people downstairs, or be careful not to make too much noise, and there isn't a landlord banging on the ceiling with a broom. But even so, it's not the house we'd thought we'd get. We had to leave the flat on Loomis quick. The water pipes broke, and the landlord wouldn't fix them because the house was too old. We had to leave fast. We were using the washroom next door and carrying water over in empty milk gallons. That's why Mama and Papa looked for a house, and that's why we moved into the house on Mango Street, far away on the other side of town. They always told us that one day we would move into a house, a real house that would be ours for always, so we wouldn't have to move each year. And our house would have running water and pipes that worked. And inside, it would have real stairs. Not hallway stairs, but stairs inside like the houses on TV. And we'd have a basement and at least 3 washrooms, so when we took a bath, we wouldn't have to tell everybody. Our house would be white with trees around it, and a great big yard and grass growing without a fence. This was the house Papa talked about when he held a lottery ticket. And this was the house Mama dreamed up in the story she told us before we went to bed. Okay, pause. So it sounds like this family has lived in some houses that either they had to share, like an apartment style house where there's people living above and below you, you have lots of neighbors, or houses that have had issues like breaking pipes and stuff. And this one part I wanted to clarify, so I didn't know if you guys knew what this meant. And we'd have a basement and at least 3 washrooms, so when we took a bath, we wouldn't have to tell everybody. I don't know if this happens in your house, but my house growing up, we had 2 bathrooms, but the water heater at our house was so tiny that if you took a shower or a bath, the next person after you would have freezing cold water. So you'd have to wait like hours before the next person could take a shower or bath. Not fun. Also, if you flush the toilet, I'm sure this happens in like lots of places, but if you flush the toilet, it would have like the hottest water ever come out of the shower. So I think that's what she means by that part. 3 bathrooms. And they wouldn't have to share the bathrooms then too, so that's nice. So, sounds like they're in their Mango Street house and loving life. Let's continue. But the house on Mango Street is not the way they told it at all. Oh, maybe not. I spoke too soon. Maybe it's not the house they dreamed of. It's small and red with tight steps in front and windows so small you'd think they were holding their breath. Bricks are crumbling in places and the front door is so swollen you have to push hard to get in. There's no front yard, only 4 little elms the city planted by the curb. Out back is a small garage for the car we don't own yet, and a small yard that looks smaller between the 2 buildings on either side. There are stairs in our house, but they're ordinary hallway stairs, and the house only has 1 washroom. Everybody has to share a bedroom. Mama and Papa, Carlos and Kiki, me and Nenny. So everybody has to share a bedroom. So I'm thinking, trying to use some deduction skills. I'm trying to infer how many bedrooms there are. Since they separate it like this, I don't think it means that all 6 people in her family share 1 bedroom. I think it means Mama and Papa share a bedroom because they have an and between them and then there's a comma that separates the rest. Carlos and Kiki maybe share a bedroom. And me and Nenny share a bedroom. So that's our narrator sharing a bedroom with her sister. So I think there might be 3 bedrooms is what this means. Okay, next page on 45. Once we were living on Loomis, a nun from my school passed by and saw me playing out front. The laundromat downstairs had been boarded up because it had been robbed 2 days before, and the owner had painted on the wood, "Yes, we're open," so as not to lose business. "Where do you live?" she asked. Strange dialogue, guys. It's weird to read without quotation marks, right? And they didn't just forget those or make an error. That's just the author's decision. They made a style choice not to include quotation marks here for the dialogue, okay? So the nun and nuns from my school, that means nuns were the teachers. So the nun asked, "Where do you live?" "There," I said, pointing up to the 3rd floor. "You live there?" "There." I had to look at where she pointed. The 3rd floor. The paint peeling wooden bars Papa had nailed on the windows so we wouldn't fall out. "You live there?" The way she said it made me feel like nothing. There. I lived there. I nodded. I knew then I had to have a house. A real house. One I could point to. But this isn't it. The house on Mango Street isn't it. For the time being, Mama says. Temporary, says Papa. But I know how those things go. Okay, so this paragraph right here, where she's pointing to her house that she lived in on Loomis Street. Okay, this is her old house. She's feeling pretty insecure about her house. She's feeling pretty judgy or judged or judgmental about it. Okay, the nun was like shocked that she would live in a place with bars on the windows and paint peeling and stuff. So it makes the narrator feel like nothing because she doesn't have a very nice house. Okay, and here it says that Mama and Papa decided, or they told the kids, that the house on Mango Street, the new house, is just temporary. But I know how those things go, she says. So she's thinking that, yeah, sure, it's temporary. I bet we're going to be here for a long time. Okay. All right, next page. Okay. So that was the whole chapter for this part. That was the entire vignette. For this part of the lesson, this was the description of the house. Okay, this was the paragraph from the story we just read, the chapter we just read, describing Mango Street. So what I want you guys to do, it says underline each word or phrase that describes the house on Mango Street. So we're going to go through I'll zoom in a bit. We're gonna underline any word that describes what the house looks like or what it contains, what it includes, okay? So, but the house on Mango Street is not the way they told it at all. It's small and red. Small and red are description words about the house, right? With tight steps in front, that describes it. Windows so small you'd think they were holding their breath. I'm just gonna underline windows so small. Because really, since this whole paragraph is about the house, I could underline the whole thing, but I'm not gonna. It tells me just words or phrases. So tiny phrases like windows so small. Tight steps in front, okay? Short bits. Bricks are crumbling in places. Bricks are crumbling. Front door is so swollen, you'd have to push it hard to get in. Front door so swollen. That means like the front door is too big for the frame. So like, have you ever had to like put your shoulder into a door to get through it? It's like the door doesn't really fit anymore. It's kind of broken. There is no front yard. Only 4 little elms planted by the curb. So that's talking about the trees, right? The 4 little elms were planted by the curb. Out back is a small garage for the car. Say small garage. I guess you could say out back is a small garage to be more specific about where the garage is. And a small yard that looks smaller between the 2 buildings on either side. Okay. There are stairs in our house, but they are ordinary hallway stairs, and the house only has 1 washroom. Everybody has to share a bedroom. I'm just gonna share a bedroom. Okay, so those are all the things that I underlined to describe the house. Using that information now, the next part and the next page is like blank. It's just clouds, which is nice, I guess. But the next page after that, we're gonna kind of ignore this page. Some of you are lucky enough to have a sibling who is also in the 4th grade, so some of these things are like partner stuff, so this is all kind of a partner activity. So if you are one of our sets of twins in the 4th grade, you can do this activity with your brother or sister, or if you're both doing it, so it makes sense that you would do this together. But if you want to still do this with like your mom or dad or brother or sister or grandma or grandpa or aunt or uncle or anybody, you can still do this. What it is you're using what you underlined. You're telling those phrases to your neighbor or to your partner, whoever, and they are drawing the house here on page 49, okay? If you don't have somebody to do this activity with, that's fine. What you'll do and what I'll do is kind of reread through some of the stuff that we underlined to describe the setting of the story, describe the house. And I'm assuming it's going to be a very important house because the entire unit, if I look at the front cover, is called Contemporary Fiction with Excerpts from The House on Mango Street. So this house that we're describing, this house is what the whole unit is about, okay? And I'm assuming it's going to be more, about the narrator's life, but this house is very important. So we really want to be able to picture this house. We want to be able to visualize this house in our brains while we read through all the chapters in this unit. So what you're going to do, double check everything you underlined, and then as best you can on page 49, you're going to draw that house. Okay, so I remember the first thing we said about it was that it was small and red with tight steps in front and windows so small. Okay, so what I would be doing, I don't have a red, well, maybe I do. Let's check. I have a, oh, there's a red. I have a red. Okay, so red house. Small red house. Okay, there's my red house. It had small windows. I'm gonna give it a, how do I draw stairs? It said it has tight steps out front. Stairs are hard to draw, guys. Okay, not bad. And a front door, obviously, they need to get into the house. But it said it had small windows, so I'm gonna draw super tiny little windows. And it did say it had stairs, right? Hallway stairs, ordinary hallway stairs. So I'm gonna draw a second story of tiny, tiny windows also. And do a little walkway out to the street. Okay, so far that's all I know about my house. I guess I could color it in. It's a red house, right? Beautiful. Okay. And if you don't want to watch me draw, you should be doing the drawing, right? Front door, yep. No front yard. Just 4 little elms planted by the curb. Okay. Purple trees, because why not? So there's no yard. So I drew that walkway too large, but whatever. Here's my 4 trees. I don't know what elm trees look like, but I'm assuming it's exactly like that. Okay, by the front curb. There's my front curb of my house. Okay, small garage. Oh, that's out back. Small garage, small yard, and there's buildings on either side. Okay, doesn't say what color or anything. So there's gonna be another building over here. Building. Building. The garage is, back here. There's garage back there, okay? It's like behind, so it's smaller, right? Perspective. And then the small yard back here. Okay. There's their little backyard. Kind of looks like they're connected, but it's not a tunnel, it's a yard. Okay. 2 buildings on either side. Stairs in the house. Yep, got that. Because there's a second story. 1 bathroom, and everyone shares a bedroom. Well, I can't draw the inside of the house very well, but we'll just say there's the 3 bedrooms, and one of those is a bathroom. So I drew a perfect number of windows. So you can make your drawing as detailed as you'd like, but try and use those descriptive words from the chapter to draw the house on Mango Street, okay? So after that part is a fun activity. The rest of this lesson, zoom out a bit so you can see both pages. The rest of this lesson is just a writing activity, okay? Writing. So don't worry about the instructions just yet. It's just this page and this page. What you can do is do a rough draft here, read this little tip at the bottom, and final draft on this page. Or if your writing is going to be long, use both pages, okay? But that's all the space they give you to do the writing. If you need to use more space, use some lined paper or something, some blank paper, that's fine. But what you're going to be writing about, okay, you have 2 options. And since I'm not going to be writing it down, I'm just going to write your 2 options here, but you do not, okay? Option number 1, write about your house or a house you know very well. Okay, so like the narrator described her house on Mango Street in like very good detail, very descriptive detail, you're gonna write about your house, okay? Or it doesn't have to be your house. It can be your mom's house or your grandma's house or your neighbor's house. I don't know, whichever house you are most connected to. Maybe it's an old house you used to live in and now you're moved into a different house. It can be any real house you know of. Write as much as you can to describe that house. And it says write for 10 minutes, okay? That's the goal, write for 10 minutes straight. Trying to be as precise and detailed as possible. So don't just say like, it was a big house. How big was it? Was it as big as like 3 elephants? Be as detailed as possible. What color is your house? How many rooms does your house have? How many bathrooms? Does it have stairs? Does it have a yard? Does it have trees? Okay, describe everything you can about that house. Or option number 2, and this one's kind of a fun one. Write about an imaginary house. So this one is more personal narrative. You're not writing like a story, but you're writing about something real, okay? In this one, it's an imaginary house. So this could be dream house. This could be house that you want to live in one day, okay? This could be house made of unicorns. Big screen TVs in every single room for Fortnite. Whatever you want that imaginary house to be, that could be your description in option 2, okay? So choose one. Write about a real house you know very well, or write as many details as you can about an imaginary house. But that's what you're doing on this page and this page, okay? Try and take up both. You should be writing a lot, right? This is towards the end of 4th grade. We should be writing plenty enough to fill up those 2 pages. And the very last thing you have to do for this lesson, after you write your story about your house, real house or imaginary house, is to draw a picture of it. It says to read your partner's description, like their house, and then draw what your partner describes to test like how specific your details were. But you can just draw your own house, or you can give this page to like someone in your family and they can read your story about your house and then they can try and draw it. Because if they don't draw anything even close to what you described, then either they're not very good artists or you didn't describe it well enough. And you need to go back and make those details more specific, okay? So this is just the beginning of this unit. There are 12 lessons to this unit, so that was number 1. Good luck with your stories, good luck with your drawing. If you want to share your stories with me, like put them on Google Docs or show me what the drawing looks like, I would love to see it. Have your parents take a picture of the drawing or write it out on paper and send it to me. Share it on Google Docs, whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to put my bookmark in right here on L2, so I am ready for lesson 2. Bye, guys.